I have a line here from President Obama that really sums up my conflicted feelings on this election. So I want to play it for you guys and then explain what I mean. So here's Obama going after Trump.
If you disrespect the Constitution by threatening to shut down the press when it doesn't say things you like, or threatening to throw your opponent in jail, or discriminating against people of different faiths, if you do that before you are elected, then what are you going to do when you have actual power to do those things?
So here's the thing. That's all true. But there's a problem with it. He's the messenger. And he's the wrong messenger. He's a flawed messenger because he's a neoliberal and he himself has violated the Constitution. But now he's going out there, and when it comes to Donald Trump, he's crying wolf. He's like, oh, we can't vote for this guy. He may violate the Constitution. Okay, President Obama, Guantanamo Bay is still open. Now, I get it. He'd argue, well, the Republicans have blocked me. But that which has been set up extrajudicially and outside the law can be shut down outside of the law. I mean, it's unconstitutional to begin with. So I would just shut it down and say, you want to take me to court? Take me to court. Because then if they take you to court, guess what? You're going to win that case, or at the very least, you'll go down in history as being right on this, even if the court rules against you. Because it's an extrajudicial prison. We can't have that. This is America. So Guantanamo Bay is still open. You haven't fought on that. Dude, you're bombing 7 countries right now. Now, understand, they'll argue, well, that's approved by this loophole because we all tack it on to the original legislation, which approved in the war on terror, fighting against Iraq, but now we're just tacking different countries onto it and saying they're all approved because it's part of the broader war on terror. No. See, the way it's supposed to work is you need to get a declaration of war from Congress if you want to go to war. Now, you're bombing 7 different countries. You would argue, hey, I'm not at war with all those countries. You'd say maybe just Iraq and Afghanistan are the only ones that are still wars that are going on that we're engaged in. But no, it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, the list goes on and on. So when you do a bombing in those countries, that's war. They'd say, no, it's not, because that's not enough military intervention to consider it a war. But if China decided to bomb Nebraska, you'd say, well, that's an act of war. And would you believe their argument, their counter-argument, when they say, no, it's cool, it's not war because we just bombed a little bit and now we're out? No, that's still a war. So you started, or you're doing war, waging war, whether it's by drones or by traditional airstrikes or by special ops forces on the ground, you're fighting in 7 different countries. You do not have 7 different congressional, approvals for war. And in fact, I'll be fair to you, let's take Iraq and Afghanistan and put it on the same one. So you don't have 6 different congressional approvals for war. So that does technically and literally violate the Constitution, whether or not you realize it. We're talking about a guy who, and this is the clearest example of unconstitutional, beefed up NSA spying. There's the facility, and I think it's Utah. It's a multi-billion-dollar facility. It's gigantic. They're storing everybody's metadata, everybody's stuff. So, they have a surveillance state that can spy on anybody for any reason. That's where we're at right now. And then they have a bullshit FISA court, which are rubber stamp approval, where there's no actual oversight. So it's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable search and seizure, because there's no description specifically of the person and things to be searched and seized. So it brazenly violates the Constitution. It is in your face a violation of the Constitution. And he's taken George W. Bush's system, which was horrendous, and he's put it on steroids and human growth hormone. And here we are now. So he's spying on everybody, and he goes, it could be bad with Trump. He may violate the Constitution. Now, understand, the reality is, would Trump, based on his own words and what he says he prefers, go further and violate it way worse than Obama? Yes! Everything he said on the First Amendment is petrifying. I mean, it's obvious he's against free expression and a free press. He sued Bill Maher over a joke. He sued The Onion over a satire piece. This is a guy who created a media blacklist as he's running for president to say, these outlets are banned from my events and from covering me because they don't cover me fairly. He said, I want to have a system that's more like England's, where, you could sue people for saying the wrong thing. Here we have too much free speech. So this is a guy who's deeply against the First Amendment. He's deeply against, freedom to protest, for example. So yes, he would be worse. I have no doubt about that. But because Obama's a neoliberal, and because he's a centrist/center-right Democrat, your arguments all have some degree of hypocrisy in them. So it's hard to take you seriously when you talk about this stuff because I know too much about what you've done. So that's the problem, man. And again, I feel like they have nobody to blame but themselves for if a monster, either Trump himself or somebody like Trump, takes power. Because you didn't provide a real alternative, an actual alternative. Somebody who we could say across the board is nothing like that guy Trump. Somebody like Bernie, who, if he was a general election candidate, would be winning in a landslide right now. He's somebody who's actually principled, who actually cares about these issues, and who doesn't go back on them when it's fucking convenient. Who doesn't buckle on civil liberties, who doesn't buckle on the Constitution, who doesn't buckle on his principles when it comes to universal health care and universal education. When you give us these milquetoast neoliberal centrist/center-right hawkish Democrats, guess what? People aren't that excited to vote for you. They're just not. They look at you and they look at Trump and they go, look, it's a matter of lesser of two evils. So you want to get turnout up and you want to, make it so that it's a guarantee the Democrat wins, actually make the counter argument and live the counter argument. Live it when you're in office that we should abide by the Constitution. Not, hey, I'm going to violate it when it's convenient, but then cry wolf when Trump wants to violate it worse. Because it's just hard to listen to that and take it totally seriously because I know what you've done. And what you've done is also not okay. When you violate the Constitution, it's also not okay. He's worse, but what you did is bad. And you would never acknowledge that part. And that's why this is massively disingenuous.